Bragg.
Thank you, Deputy President, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to make some comments on this matter of urgency raised by Senator McKim. And I wish it was that easy, that you could just make a couple of changes to the tax code and we would solve the nation's housing problem. Now, the reality is that if you look at negative gearing and capital gains tax measures, you're proposing to increase the amount of taxation paid. I don't see how increasing taxation is going to result in more houses being built. And that is the point that has been made by Peter Tulip, who is a former Reserve Bank economist at the Centre for Independent Studies. And he's made the point that playing around with these things would be dangerous, and that if you did it, it would have a very small change to prices, in fact. He says the change to prices would be between 1% and 3%. So if you look at the information here that has been published by the Tax Department, people will know that 70% of the mums and dads who invest into property, thereby providing supply, own one property. Now, in many cases, these are people on average median incomes, doing frontline service roles. This is what they have decided to do. The idea that the government would disrupt them from providing supply and indeed their own investment, I think is very misguided. And as I say, if only it was that easy that we could solve the housing crisis by fiddling around with negative gearing and CGT. I mean, I wish it was that easy. Now, the government has now had more than 2 years, and I would say the central problem with their housing policy is that they are obsessed with what's good for institutions, not what is good for individuals. And the last time I looked, the Australian dream was not a dream of big super funds or foreign fund managers. It was a dream of an average worker being able to purchase a house, take on a mortgage and pay the mortgage back. And that is what is getting out of the grip of the average worker. The average worker now can't get access to that dream because they can't get a mortgage. And that is something you never hear the government ministers talk about. And that is the saddest piece here, that the fact is we are stuck with a government for now that is only going to make this problem worse, not better. And if you go through their supply policies, the Housing Australia Future Fund, the housing targets, both of which have failed, and then you go to their only demand-side policy, which Deputy President is Help to Buy, which just last week was abolished by the state government of New South Wales, you are not going to solve the supply piece, and you're not going to tilt the scales in favour of first home buyers with a Help to Buy program. Now, Minister Farrell talked about this in question time today, and he actually said that he thought the Help to Buy was going to help 400,000 families. Now, they should read their own legislation, because the proposed bill would help 40,000 people over the forward estimates, 40,000 people. Now, in a country that needs to build more than 1.2 million houses, 40,000 houses is not a lot of properties, not a lot of people. So these are tiny solutions, and often misguided solutions. The other policy the government has developed during this election period, or during this term I should say, is what I call their perpetual renting plan. Now, there's nothing wrong with renting, and we should always look for ways to support renters. But we want to give the Australian people opportunities to buy their own home. And so the perpetual renting plan is underpinned by giving tax concessions to foreign fund managers. And as Senator Waters pointed out in her contribution, the idea that the Australian taxpayer would be giving a tax concession to foreign fund managers so they can build houses in Australia and then rent them out to people like we are serfs is fundamentally misguided. And this is where the Labor Party's housing policy all comes together. On one hand, you've got the Housing Australia Future Fund and you've got the Help to Buy programs, all designed to work in with the super funds. And then you've got the build to rent plan, which is designed to help foreign fund managers. So I would hope, my dream for the short term would be the government have a housing plan which is about people, not about institutions.